Bounce a rock down the court, we ready to ignite. Hop on the mic, it's the thrill of the fight. The All Sports Podcast, we gon' take flight. Analyzing every play, keep it fresh and tight. We bring the heat, never backing down. Yeah, we talking shots, we talking moves. The All Sports Podcast, we make the grooves. From the court to your ears, we got the tools. In the game of life, we breaking the rules.
Guys, what's going on? This is Gabe Quinton. Welcome to another episode of the All Sports Podcast, NBA edition. Got a lot of exciting news for us, some things to talk about. It is the middle of October, so sports are in full swing. You got the NFL season that's been going on for about a month and some change. The MLB postseason is in full swing. Yankees and Mets working on giving us a Subway Series. That should be exciting. Obviously, the Dodgers and the Guardians are going to have something to say about that. So, NBA and NHL are coming back very, very soon. And just to look at some of the things that we are to be expecting to see in this upcoming NBA season. Some records, some maybe first time things happening. First, we got Kevin Durant, who needs about 1,000 points or so to be the 8th player in NBA history with 30,000 points. KD also just needs 113 threes to pass Paul Pierce for 14th all-time in three-pointers. These are obviously numbers that KD has, been accustomed to getting the last few seasons. So we are, barring any injury, expecting to see him, reach new heights in his career. We got James Harden, guys, who is 20th all-time in points. Something great to see as somebody who's seen him develop from his early years in OKC to be somebody that's top 20 all time already in points is crazy. And he's about only 800 points away from being in about 15th or so. So he's got some work to do and he's doing it. He's last 3 seasons, on pace for about 1,200 or so a season. So that 800, should be fairly easy for him to get. He's also 34 threes from passing Ray Allen all time, and also 60 away from being the second player ever, behind, of course, Steph Curry, to have 3,000 threes in a season. So, James Harden, of course, one of the all-time greats, an NBA legend, to say the least. Him and Luka are also 8th in career triple-doubles with 77, one behind Will Chamberlain. So, I'm expecting to see them both pass this feat. To some, the greatest player of all time. To others, the second greatest player of all time. And to others, you're a hater if he's not one or two. But LeBron has just 69 games played to put him second all-time in games played, passing Kareem and only behind Robert Parrish of the Celtics. That's a testament to LeBron's longevity in the game. 20-plus seasons just at the complete top of his game. LeBron also 8th in threes. He hit 149 last year. He would need 151 to pass Reggie, who's currently 5th all-time, who was, once upon a time, the three-point king. So LeBron to, be so close to passing Reggie is a testament to LeBron again, obviously, but also a testament to the game and how the game has developed and how the game is played, basically, is what I'm trying to say. because I firmly believe if Reggie was playing in today's game, he would have been throwing up about 15 of those babies a game. No questions asked about that. You got a couple other all-time records to be broken. I won't bore you guys with some of the smaller, detailed ones, but some cooler ones, I would say. You got Chris Paul, who is 198 assists away from being second all-time, passing Jason Kidd, and also 71 steals from passing Kidd for second all-time. So Chris Paul, making a statement for himself, top 5 point guard of all time. Some would say. I would probably put him 5th. Wouldn't be mad at 6th. But Chris Paul, nonetheless, one of the greatest of all time, teaming up with Victor. So assists should not be hard to come by this year with the amount of lobs that I expect them to have. Shout out Russell Westbrook. Expecting him to be entering the top 20 all-time in points this year. Rudy Gobert. Every time I mention Rudy Gobert, I always think about how many people hate this man, and for absolutely no reason. But he could be the first player to be a 5-time Defensive Player of the Year. So, I think Victor has something to say about that, but we'll just wait and see. And outside of the players, on the coaching side, you got Greg Pop, who is 12 wins away from 1,400 all-time. He is already the all-time leader in wins. And, obviously, all these guys are all-time greats in their own way. But there are a lot of players who are here, trying to make a name for themselves. So a couple players who I believe have a chance to be, first-time All-Stars, or not just me, I think there's a consensus all around the NBA that there's a couple players that are looking to make a name for themselves this year. Obviously, first and foremost, I've mentioned his name already a few times. Victor, obviously, put up numbers last year that were borderline already all-star level. So one should only assume that these numbers are only going to get better and put him more in contention to be an all-star this year. So the only thing holding him back, I would say, would be the team record. And to be quite honest, I feel like Wemby's numbers are going to be so outrageous. Well, let me not say outrageous before we actually get to see him in action. But I do think that he is going to put up numbers good enough to put him to make him an all-star this year. So and a couple other first-time All-Stars I do want to kind of mention. Chet, who was somebody who a lot of people, had for Rookie of the Year competition with Victor just last year. Him and Jalen Williams. Something about the Thunder, kind of being one of those teams that could be top 1, top 2 seed in the West, when one of the best teams in the NBA. Usually these teams have multiple All-Stars, right? So you have Shea, obviously, who's an MVP candidate, who's going to probably come back this year and try to replicate the year that he had last year. But in order for the Thunder to kind of take that next step, they've added some pieces with Caruso, with Hartenstein. Those secondary players are going to have to kind of step up. So I'm looking at Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams to kind of be those guys to possibly take that next step. And if not be all-stars, possibly have all-star caliber seasons. Another player who, put up kind of all-star numbers, or at least enough to put him in contention, I would say is Alperen Sengun from the Houston Rockets. He put up a 21-9, 21-9 numbers last year. Obviously, the Rockets, you know, weren't a playoff team, so these things sometimes come into play. Your team record, how well your team is doing, but if the Rockets can somehow put together a solid first half of the season, I see no reason that Sengun can get some votes. Es- Especially with the way things are going with the injured reserve, and he could end up maybe replacing some guy at the very worst. And some other names I did want to mention. You got obviously the Knicks added Carl Anthony Towns to their roster, who's already somebody who's been an all-star in this league, an all-NBA player in this league. You got Jalen Brunson, who's looking to spearhead the Knicks to a possible championship caliber season. So with Jalen and Cat kind of, running the show, for the Knicks to kind of take that next step, I'm looking for them to kind of have that third all-star on their team. Sort of like the way that the Boston Celtics or teams of the past have had kind of like that third all-star to elevate them to that championship level. We got Tatum and Jaylen Brown on the Celtics, right? With that third all-star kind of being Porzingis, and of course their role players who played a tremendous role last year. But for the Knicks, some people would say Mikal Bridges. I'm leaning more towards OG. Reason why, Mikal will probably get more buckets, more points, but OG is going to be the Knicks' real X factor, the real MVP. Kind of like a baby Kawhi in a little bit, making your open shots, but leaning his head on defense and creating offense with his defense, and kind of being that guy that they can lean on. And being that they were 26-6 last year when OG was in the lineup, I don't see no reason why that success can't continue. So for next year, there's a lot of great things to look forward to. A lot of teams are making some moves, not only for next year, and that's what I feel like a lot of fans don't seem to realize, is that when a team makes moves, a trade, waiving this or that player, whatever move is being made, we always have to think about the bigger picture, in the sense of, like, we're obviously, none of us are GMs, none of us have run an NBA team, so on and so forth. But when you're running a team, you obviously have to think about more than just this year, more than just the current game or the current season. It's a long game, and you have to think about this year, the following year, and the year after that. So a lot of times people make these judgments on these moves without really thinking forward of how that may benefit their team in the long run. So while we're seeing kind of these off-season moves going around, just think about some long-term effects that those could have. And we got DeMar DeRozan obviously being added to the Sacramento Kings. They're making their moves, obviously. De'Aaron Fox bypassed a 3-year, $165 million max contract. Some people will say maybe he's kind of done with the organization, things of that nature. That is not the case. I honestly feel like it's the complete opposite. By bypassing this 3-year, 165 million, he is eligible next year for a 4-year, $220 million contract, or a supermax 5-year, $345 million contract if he manages to make an All-NBA. So, is De'Aaron Fox betting on himself? I would say so. Sabonis made an All-NBA last year. Him and Fox and Sabonis are both, all-star type players that probably feel like if, we add another all-star, which they did in DeMar, that we can possibly take that next step as an organization. So he's probably betting on himself if I were to take a guess. So let's see the season that is to come for De'Aaron Fox. Should be interesting, should be fun. It is a stacked West. The West is stacked. You got Memphis coming back, who was a non-factor last year, but will definitely be one this year. Some other comebacks for this year. You got Lonzo Ball expected to make a return Wednesday for their preseason game. He's been out for 2 years, sidelined with multiple knee injuries. He had a cartilage transplant, which required him to get a new meniscus. So 2 years out the game. We're all looking forward to seeing Lonzo Ball back in uniform and seeing how all of that things goes. It should be exciting to see him. Let's see. We got some other people here I wanted to talk about. Has some news come out from some media day with Joel Embiid kind of telling media that if he were to have his way, he would no longer play any back-to-backs for the rest of his career. And to be quite honest with you, the word, not the word around town, I'm not some sort of NBA insider or whatever, but the way that the NBA season has transpired for Joel Embiid, you would think that the Sixers would prioritize his health, which I think they are going to do this upcoming season. And while looking at the Sixers' schedule for next year, they have 15 back-to-backs, right? So that's 30 games. If he doesn't play, back-to-backs, right? Let's say he misses one of these games. That'll be 15 games missed. From the 82-game season, that'll put him at 67 games. We know he's not caring about any accolades or any sort of awards. And we know there's a 65-game minimum for all of these things. So my guess is that they don't really care about how many games he plays, as long as by the time the playoffs roll around, you have a 100% healthy Joel Embiid, who, to be quite honest, in the East, unless you're really trying to avoid the Celtics in the first round, seeding, I don't think seeding is gonna matter tremendously. If you're the Sixers, I would literally prioritize just making sure that Paul George and Embiid are healthy, especially now that Paul George, off the recent game, kind of hyperextended that knee. Hyperextensions can be tricky. There's been no word back of how long he'll be out, if he'll miss any games or not. Hyperextensions could last a couple weeks. NBA season starts next Tuesday, so maybe missing the beginning of the season. PG, who knows? We'll wait to see. What news comes out of that. As of the recording of this show, there hasn't been any updates, so we'll let you guys know once we find out. But some other news that I did want to chat about really briefly. We got Danny Green, shout out Danny Green, 3-time NBA champion. retiring from the NBA. He won his first title in 2014 with the Spurs, then another one in 2019 with the Raptors, and then another one in 2020 with the Los Angeles Lakers. A champion, NCAA champion in 2009 with the North Carolina Tar Heels. 2017 second team all defensive team. Shout out to Danny Green, 3-point specialist, 3-and-D, a contributor to championship caliber teams. So, happy retirement to Danny Green. We got some WNBA news. New York Liberty tying up the WNBA Finals 1 apiece behind Breanna Stewart, 21-8, also setting a WNBA Finals record with 7 steals. Sabrina adding on 15-5. Should be a great series against the Minnesota Lynx. Game 3 will be Wednesday at 8 p.m. So, shout out to the ladies holding it down. Great basketball being played over there. Make sure you guys tune in. And really briefly, I did want to close with this GM survey that the NBA runs every year. They had a couple interesting little takes that I'll touch up on with you guys. So the NBA goes around, asks the GMs of the league, all 30 of them, some questions. And, kind of going through some of these, I agree with most of them, to be honest. I won't touch up on all of them. You can take a look at the NBA GM survey they conducted every year for the full list, but I'll just be touching up on a few of them. And the ones specifically are: who is the best player at each position in the NBA? And so for starting off, we'll just start the list off. Who is the best point guard in the NBA? 37% said Luka, with 30% saying Shea, and on third place Steph Curry with 23%. Last year it was 63% Steph Curry. So what you're starting to see is kind of that change of the guard. You know what I mean? Out with the old, in with the new kind of situation. Steph Curry, all-time great player. I personally got him top 10 all-time. But it just goes to show, how the game is kind of evolving a little bit. And with the best shooting guard in the NBA, 33% going towards Anthony Edwards. And in second place, Devin Booker with 23%. Again, Anthony Edwards, what is he, 22, 23 years old, already the best shooting guard in the NBA. And if not Devin Booker, who not sure how old Devin Booker is, but he is already an NBA vet with 7, 8, 9 years in the league, being drafted as a rookie. As a freshman from Kentucky. So another young buck there. We have the best small forward in the NBA. This was a little bit more of a wider margin by GMs in the NBA, with 47% saying Jason Tatum, close to 50% saying Jason Tatum. Boy's a champ. So gotta give it to JT. He's a champion. The biggest gap so far, the best power forward, we got Giannis at 77%. Yeah, that's not even close. at all. And then an even larger gap, you're gonna have Nikola Jokic at 87%, being the best center in the league, with the second and third place being Joel Embiid 10% and Victor 3%. Last year was Nikola 93%, so it's gone down slightly, but still, still a surmountable lead, you could say there. And that to me is a pretty accurate representation of who the best players at their positions are. NBA GMs have Shea as their favorite to win the MVP at 40%, and I can see that with the Thunder's team being what many of us envision their team to be. Probably the favorites in the West. I mean, according to the GMs in the NBA, they are the favorites in their eyes, with an 80% chance of winning the West. Boston 97% chance of winning the East. The Knicks close, not close, but Knicks in second with 43%. So yeah, OKC, Shea, that's a strong possibility for MVP. Honestly, I want Luka to get it, not for no other reason besides the fact that I feel like he's been killing the last few years, but Joker and Embiid have just been playing at a complete other level. So I think, Luka's time is coming. The full list, guys, like I said, is on NBA.com. Take a look at it. There's some pretty interesting stuff here. I'm not trying to bore you guys with all the stuff, but who's gonna win Rookie of the Year? Reed Shepherd, 50% here. Should be a good one. Sneaky pick Zach Edey from Memphis. He had a great preseason game today. Had 20-something points. An old school center, but a big body that Memphis does need. And to win Rookie of the Year, first and foremost, you have to get minutes, you have to play, you have to be needed out there on the floor. So that is going to be something to look out for. Best defensive player in the NBA, 40% Wemby, and Bam, Rudy, and Drew coming in tied for second. Yeah, man, this should be an exciting season. There's a lot of good things to be looking forward to. One of the funny ones that I saw was, what team's success will be the hardest to predict. And that was the Lakers, 17%. No one ever knows what's going to happen with the Lakers. I don't even think the Lakers know what's going to happen with the Lakers. Could be a Western Conference Finals team. Happened twice already in the last 4 or 5 years. Winning a chip in the 2020 bubble season. Or could end up not making the playoffs at all. Who really knows? But guys, thank you again for joining me. Talking some basketball, just chatting it up, some news from the past week. Just getting ramped up for the NBA season that's going to be coming up on us next week. Thank you to everyone that's been listening to our podcast for the last few weeks while we talk about all these different sports, NFL, MLB, NBA, NHL, everything in between. So I'll welcome you guys next week while we keep this thing rolling and welcome in the NBA season. Thank you guys again. Take care.
So tune in tight, feel the hype, let it grow. The All Sports Podcast, it's the show we know. Yeah, we talking shots, we talking moves. The All Sports Podcast, we make the grooves. From the court to your ears, we got the tools. In the game of life, we breaking the rules. So tune in tight, feel the hype, let it grow. The All Sports Podcast, it's the show we know. Whoa.